Good day, everyone. So today I'm going to be showing you how a physical router looks like for those of you that are just coming in into networking and you are finding it difficult to identify the various ports on a router. So what I have here is a Cisco 4321 model, and also I have the various components I'm going to be showing you. So this is like the back of the router, and this is the power cord. So this is where the power cord goes into. This is the on and off switch. So this port here is the management port. So this management port is useful if you want to connect OOB. What do I mean by OOB? Let's assume that the internet connectivity to this router is down and you're unable to reach it remotely. So you can get like a modem that has its own internet, maybe a 4G or a 5G box, and you can connect it to this port. Through the internet of that box, you'll be able to have access to this router to check what the problem is. So that is what you have here, management port. Then you have the console port. This console port is what you use to connect physically to this router at the location where it is installed. So if you remember, when you are preparing your router and you go into the configuration mode, you issue a command line console 0. So this is the line console 0. So it is advisable that you give it a password so that anybody cannot just connect here and have access to your network device. So this is a console port. Moving on to this place, I have uh, okay, this is console port, and here I have this port here that you can use also to connect. This router has just two Ethernet ports. These are Ethernet ports, and this is a G00. This is G01. So I can connect here as my console, and I can also connect here as my console. So that is that. Then here I have a serial port. These are serial ports. Most of the equipment now, they don't use serial links again. So this is serial port. Now, on a router, you have limited Ethernet ports. So that means having a router for your internal use is not suitable when you have multiple computers. So what you use a router for, use it for routing. But apart from having your router, you need a switch. So this is a switch, and this switch here has a 24 port. So the essence of having a switch is for you to be able to connect to the router. On the router, this is where your routing takes place. This is where you configure your GRP, OSPF, RIP, or whatever. And on the switch, this is where you configure your VLAN segmentation and you connect your host to this port. So majorly, switch is meant for to connect end devices. That is access switches. They are meant to connect end devices, and in your office, if you have like 24 computers, you can connect them to this port, and from here you can now link to your router. So I'm going to do a simple demonstration. So let's say from my router 1 now, I'm connecting from G00. Yes, I'm connecting from G00, and I'm connecting to my switch on the G00 also, or G01. So I've been able to connect my switch to my router, and I can do my configuration from here to here. Let's assume this is a layer 1 switch that can only do a layer 2 switch that can only do switching. What I can do here is I can configure VLANs. I can separate all these ports into VLANs. Then after configuring VLANs, I can now configure, whatever, maybe a sub interface here to pass the traffic to the VLAN. So I can also connect to another port. from my switch to my router, and if I connect to my router, then I can also pass another traffic there. So see, a router majorly they are for routing, for filtering. You can do your policy implementation here. You can configure your ACL, you know, whatever you want to configure that has to do with layer 3, which is the IP addressing stage. You can do it here. The layer 2, you can configure everything here. You can do your VLAN configuration. You can do your trunk ports, access ports. You can configure your HSRP. You can configure your VTP. You can manipulate your STP. Everything is done on at the switch level. At the router level, that's where you configure your routing protocol, AIGRP, OSPF, RIP, ISIS, and whatever you want. So this is just video for people that you've not been interacting with physical equipment. I know majority of new people coming into networking, most of the time you practice with packet tracer or other emulator like GNS3 and EVNG. But this is just to show you a physical representation of what you have been seeing on the virtual environment. So thank you so much. If you have access to a physical equipment, you can practice everything you've been practicing on your, you know, on your emulator. You can replicate it on the physical equipment, because when you start working, you'll be dealing with physical equipment. So like I said, this is the console port. This port here is also console port. So if I want to configure anything here now, I can use my RJ45 here, and I can connect directly to my system. So here I have my patch panel, and I can connect to any of these blue for me to go to my system and do my configuration. Thank you so much. If you like this video, you can like it, subscribe to the channel, share with your friend, and also drop your comments. Thank you so much. I see you in the next video.